Hi folks, welcome back. In my work with MCP servers and just building agents, I have often wished for a small, simple tool that will let me transform and compose MCP servers. And I couldn't find one, so I built one. And by transform, I mean simple things like maybe renaming the tools, changing their schemas, maybe just taking subsets of tools in case of MCP servers that expose a ton of tools, but then also compose them. Say I have many MCP servers, but I just want to compose a new MCP server that has just one or two tools composed out of them. Or what if I have many MCP servers and I want to pipe them, just like you write pipes on the command line. So that's what I mean by transform and compose. So I wrote a tool called MCP Blocks, and the GitHub repo is open. I'll leave a link in the description. I really wanted the name MC Pipes, but that was taken. I also thought about MCP Lego, but that would have been problematic from a trademark point of view. So MCP Blocks it is. So let me just show you with a couple of simple examples how it works. It is on NPM, so you can run it with npx. That's the help output. And let me show you a simple example. So we start with a base MCP server, the underlying MCP server that we want to transform or compose in some way. And then the way we transform it is just with a natural language prompt. And it needs an LLM to then write the code to do all that. So you need a model and an API key. Now, as an example, I am using this great Yahoo Finance MCP server, makes for a great example. Big thanks to the author. And you can see here in that MCP server, it exposes a number of tools, but they all start with this Y finance prefix. So let me start with a very simple transformation, which takes this basic MCP server, and all I want to change is remove this Y finance prefix from all the tool names. And let me also give it a specific port to run on so that we can actually inspect it. 1099, right? All right, so that ran, and here you can see how it is connecting to the base MCP server, discovering all the tools it has, and it's generating some code to carry out the transformation that I requested in the prompt. And finally, it's serving up a new MCP server on this URL. And you can go look at that again in the MCP inspector. And if you do list tools, you'll see there you go. It's all the same tools, but the Y finance prefix has been taken away from the names of those tools. Okay, so that was cool. That carries out one very simple transformation. The real power comes from composition. So you can pipe these MCP blocks invocations. So here's my first one, and this first one was simple. It just removed this prefix from all the tool names. But then what I can do is pipe the resulting MCP server into another MCP blocks invocation and pile on another transformation. And I can keep doing this. And this lets you build up really elaborate things out of simple transformations. So the composition lets you do complex things by combining simple things. So for example, here I'm actually creating a new tool. I'm asking it to create a new tool called compare stocks that actually takes two stock tickers and returns some information for both of those stocks. And so it's working off of this first MCP server, and the URL and port is echoed on standard out. And the second invocation, this second invocation takes that URL simply from standard out. So note that in the second invocation, I did not have to specify an upstream MCP server that just comes to it from the pipe input. And let me also just tell it what port to run the second MCP server on. All right, so that ran. Note that the first MCP blocks transformation was cached, so it didn't have to do code gen a second time. And the second one, as you'll see over here, it's generating a new transform plan, and it generated one synthetic tool. So let's look at this new one in the MCP inspector. There you go. So I've connected to this new MCP server, which is the result of a two-stage pipeline. And you can see it has this new compare stocks tool that we asked it to create with simply a natural language prompt. And so it's asking for two arguments, symbol A and symbol B, just like we asked. So let's compare MSFT and AAPL. And you get the expected JSON response over here. This is exactly what we had asked for, just the price, market cap, 52-week high, 52-week low, but for each of these symbols separately. And then finally, the cool thing is that you might remember from my last video, I'd released this tool called MCP Generative UI Wrapper. I wish I had a better name, but it takes a plain tool-only MCP server and automatically creates an MCP app or a ChatGPT app out of it by exposing an interactive UI on top of those tools. And so I changed this to also be Unix pipe friendly. And what that lets you do is compose a bunch of these MCP blocks invocations. And at the end, you can invoke this generative UI wrapper. And that will finally give you a UI on top of your MCP tool. So you can construct a whole pipeline that takes a base MCP server, transforms it, maybe creates new tools out of existing tool calls, and then finally you can slap a simple UI on it, all just by composing pipelines on the command line. And so I did this with this compare stocks new synthetic tool that we just made. And this is my MCP app simulator so that it renders the UI instead of just tool calls. And here you can see I have that same server. Note that my second last transformation was asking it to hide all tools except compare stocks and get price history, which is why I just see 2 tools, not 5. And if I ask it to compare these two stocks, it gives me a graphical output, not just a JSON output. And I can maybe try another symbol. There you go. So it updated with these two stock tickers. So that's MCP Blocks. Repo is open. It's Apache 2 licensed, and it lets you transform and compose MCP servers just with natural language prompts. The ability to construct these long Unix pipelines out of it on the CLI is really cool, if I say so myself. So I hope that's useful. Play around with it. Would love to get your feedback, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.